Hey guys, it's Matt. We will mostly look at the last video and some things we can learn from the last video. But real quick, this is my old computer that I write on, Windows 2000. That's Bootsy. 4 or 5 more weeks, maybe 3 or 4 more weeks on the book. It did creep over 100 pages. I don't think I can keep it below 100 pages, but I know it won't turn into the behemoth that the old book did. The old book is 90% conspiracy, just cataloging every fraud that they've ever put forth. There's very little of that. In the new book, it's mostly about conclusions and the very important things. I don't think I don't know, it's never say never, but I can't see writing another book. I mean, how many times can we refine the half page, right? But this computer here hasn't been, hasn't been on the internet for about 14 years. And I like that when I'm writing. Let's get to the big topic that emerged very quickly yesterday. The part of the school project that was, quote, an editorial cartoon. The pilgrims are marching with the American Indian. The guy carrying the TV said, I'll show the whole cartoon in just a moment. The best way to put this is, guys, I saw it and I didn't see it at the exact same time. Some of you may not believe me, but being very honest, the conscious part of the brain didn't see it. The part of the brain, the frontal lobes that I'm speaking to you now in English, that part did not see it. However, I'm absolutely convinced that I saw it, meaning the subconscious, unconscious mind is, in my opinion, 10,000 times more powerful. We'll talk about that on the back end than the conscious mind. The conscious mind is governed. It's just a filter at the bottom. Above it is an incomplete ocean, or if you want to reverse that, it's the iceberg principle. The conscious mind is just a little bit that floats on top. Everything underneath, the inner knowing, is just thousands and thousands of times more powerful. There's no doubt in my mind I saw it, but with that part, I don't know what, Matt, if you're opening up your channels, why didn't that part communicate to your frontal lobes and the thinking part of the brain? I don't know, but I know I saw it, but didn't recognize it because I was going through the school project, and it just hit me. There's something here, and I'm looking at the cartoon, and of course I see the 9, and I thought there is some sort of a 9 paired with the paused other number coming, the 11 coming through. There's something, and I thought, okay, well, it's Thanksgiving. That's the 11th month, or the way Temple 1 and 2, Solomon's Temple 1 and Temple 2, it's posited as the ninth day of the 11th month, Solomon's Temple 1 and 2. It's still presented as the 9 paired before the other number, the 11. So I knew there was something here. I didn't, but I'll be honest with you, I did not see those slashes right underneath with my conscious mind. I was not aware of that at all in the part of the brain or mind that I'm talking to you now in. But I absolutely believe I saw it, or the other part of me knew it was there. And I will yell at that other part of me later and say, why'd you make me look bad? Why didn't that bring up the inner knowing? We keep working on our inner knowing, opening up the channels, opening up the spillways. I don't know. But I definitely saw it because I looked at this. I said, there's something here. And I stared at the cartoon for a minute or two. As I was flipping the pages, it drew my attention. And I thought, and then I looked at the pilgrims and other things. And this is screaming the 9 paired with the other number. And I thought, maybe it's just because it's Thanksgiving and that's so associated with the number November, or the number 11 with November. I thought, well, I'm going to present it. Some people might think it's a stretch. Well, it was staring me right in the face. And the point is, well, I'll show you another example. I guess we'll get that example now in case I'm not clear on what I'm saying. How the part of us, or the part of me that's 10,000 times more powerful, certainly saw it. The idiot part of the brain that's talking to you now didn't see it. Relates to the story I told in a video about a year ago, how I was trying to analyze the famous music of the night in the Phantom of the Opera. Still haven't done a video on that. Because it's so important to me, that presentation of what that, quote, retrocausality language coming out of the Phantom of the Opera's Spirit of the Night. Is that Bruce Springsteen? The music of the night. It's so important. I want to at least get as close as I can in terms of my own interpretation, so I haven't presented that yet. And the main part, if you don't remember the story I told, or you missed the video, the main part of the music of the night, the Phantom puts his hand kind of at Christine's stomach. Let your spirit start to soar, and he pulls along her spine up to the chin. He pulls along the chakras, or Kundalini rising and all that. That's not my thing, but there's no doubt that's the presentation that the Phantom's making as he's singing, "Let your spirit start to soar," pulling along the chakras. And okay, I pause it. I'm still breaking it down, making notes, and I have these beer posters in my basement where I have the TV. And I haven't looked at these beer posters closely ever. They're just, when I were in California, lived there with my cousin, 99 to 2002, went up to this Mendocino Brewing Company, drove up north a couple hours and got these posters. And this is the, I don't even know if this beer's around anymore. The main one was called Red Tail Ale. And again, I've walked by these posters 10,000 times. I put them in the house downstairs literally in 2002 when I moved in. And I went right to the bottom. Let your spirit soar. Just 1 minute after I'm analyzing and breaking down, let your spirit start to soar. Now, the conscious mind isn't capable of putting these sorts of things together. My unconscious, subconscious, knew exactly what that poster said, and it drew my attention. Again, I just walked by it the way I always walked by it. I didn't what a coincidence, Matt, your eyes saw that. No, my inner knowing, or the unconscious mind, made sure my eyes saw it. If there's any, I don't want to keep saying first grade truthers, not too many first grade truthers here, but we do realize, guys, that the thinking part of the brain, the part that operates in English, and the part that I'm talking to you in, is literally potentially thousands of times stupid than the unconscious mind. And then in that part, there's parts that regulate heartbeats and blood pressure. But that's, that, to me, that is different than the unconscious, the inner knowing, the almost unlimited wealth of knowledge that this whole reality system and the minions is out to govern down, or siphon down, or choke down, like you would choke off or put a kink in a hose. Our job is to open those channels back up. The people around us, our family, friends, obnoxious in-laws, they just bow down to what the Not Nilk wants. The Not Nilk says, intelligence is just measured by what you can do with the frontal lobes, or the part that's coming out of the words that are coming out of Matt's own mouth now in English. That's all that matters. Your degrees, your intelligence is measured by the metrics and standards of society. You know what? That ain't shit. Those types of metrics, that part is so stupid compared to the inner knowing, the subconscious, the unconscious mind. And of course, what does the Not Nilk, what does the society and culture push? Oh, look at me, look at my degrees. And so great, you've exercised that little tiny idiot thing that speaks in English. In English, you can't even speak it. That ain't shit. It's opening up the channels to inner knowing that brings real wisdom. Some goddamn degree. I have an example of this in the book. I've told you this story once before, but it's a great story. I'll be very brief because I do explain it in detail in the book. A few years ago, my uncle had this Christmas thing, get together. I guess it was right before the See the Me. And he's like, I want the family to come down, the little kids, we have to keep Christmas alive. We're going to sing Christmas carols and do Christmassy things for the sake of the little kids. 6 or 7 or 8 kids for the entire family, ages 4 through 14 or whatever. And so, okay, here comes the 12 days of Christmas, which is just about Saturnalia. The 12 days of Saturnalia. We've all sung that song. Well, you and I, we look at things differently now, but everybody down the cul-de-sac has sung that song their whole lives. They don't even think twice about what it means. A partridge in a pear tree, 12 lords a-leaping. Anyway, a friend of the family, my uncle, who babysitted the kids years ago. Anyway, I've talked about her before. She is this gigantic major league architect throughout the Middle East, Dubai, Qatar. She knows the sultans. She goes to their parties. She designs skyscrapers. I mean, she easily has to make $1 million a year. She, has an apartment provided, a driver. Anyway, she went out there 25 years ago when all of it was being built up, and you can imagine. Anyway, so comes in. She comes to see the family around Philadelphia, not our family, her family, I guess. And then she comes over for this sing along. Anyway, I've known her for years, and I'll wrap it up in a moment. But it's the six geese are laying five golden eggs. So I said, I'm not going to say her name. I said, you know what this song really is, right? Most people never stop to think about it. She's like, no, it's just like everybody else. I haven't never really thought about it. What is it? It's the 12 days of Saturnalia. You see, Christmas, I'm going to start telling her. Christmas came out of a pagan holiday, Saturnalia. See, 12 days of Christmas, we're singing it now, 12 days of Saturnalia. Does 12 lords a leaping or 10? Does that mean anything? See, this makes more. She didn't want any part of it, of course. I keep going on, but the principle is what we talked about just a few minutes ago. See, who's this man in this sweatshirt to tell her about reality, to tell her something she doesn't know? She has the degrees. She's designed the skyscrapers in Dubai and the golf courses. Who is this man? This man you seek in his sweatshirt. See, I would have nothing of any wisdom to offer. She didn't want to hear it. I didn't have the degrees hanging on the wall. I don't design skyscrapers. I don't have the master's and the MBA and the architectural this and that and this award. So all that the society says is important. The metrics is the brain, the intelligence, the part that can make good conversation and cocktail parties, which, I can do, but that's not the point here. She said that she basically kind of came to the conclusion, I think very quickly, that there's just no way. I couldn't go my whole life not knowing a darn thing about this with all the millions of people that sung or sings this song and no mention that it really is the antithesis of what they say Christmas is about. She thought very quickly, made the calculation in her head, this couldn't possibly be true. In fact, I don't know how she abruptly ended it. Maybe she said, I got to go get some eggnog and walked away. I don't know. But I could tell it wasn't going over too well. And I wasn't pushing, I didn't charge up and get in her face and I want to talk to you about the big day in 2001. I didn't push conspiracy on her. We were singing the song. And I've known her, on and off for years. And hey, do you really want to know what this? Anyway, it's very simple what happened, guys. Her and everybody in the society, the metric of intelligence is the way society defines intelligence, which is actually the dumbest part of all of us. There is an image to see here. Just found this. I've shown this to you before, I think on Free Voice, but this is incredible to me. It's a Nat Geo magazine, and it's the reconstruction of Notre Dame, but when you flip the magazine, it looks like somebody wearing a you-know-what to me. That is incredible. You don't need to see this, just a quick, this is turned into a variety show on the back end. We know it's listening, whatever it may be, right? I mean, we've known this for 10 years almost. But sometimes when the examples come through, it is kind of funny. I'm on my email, and off to the right, the advertisements keep flashing, the new ads, and Metroid. Now, of course, it's heard me talk about it many times, Metroid. And that's our new hobo code for when nothing happened. It's what happened. Nothing. Metroid. It knows. It's funny when it pops through. I've never written the word Metroid in an email. I've never gone and watched gameplay. I didn't even know if this was even a real game, to be honest with you. I just know it's referenced from the movie Jarhead. Never once searched it out. Never looked to buy it. It's listening, and it's showing me Metroid. The most amazing thing that ever happened, because it was so long ago, was, I think it was 2012 when Pam got the Cooper and Gouda, both of the tabby cats. I was watching them for the first time for 2 weeks, and I started to get cat ads. I had never, someone might say, well, Matt, it sees even your credit card history. I had never bought anything via credit card for a cat. I had never written about cats on an email. I never did anything. I thought I was still allergic to cats at the time. She's like, you got to take them. I'm like, okay, but maybe I'll keep them here or there. I can't interact with them. I still might be allergic. I took them back in 2012, and I don't know, maybe it was a week later, because it was listening. And even then, I started to get cat ads for food, and I had no cats. And I had never spent any money on a credit card for a cat. It's still new. And what is it doing now, right? As I said, it's the chat. The Chad is listening to me probably in real time. I mean, back then this is 2012, and everything was listening. Yeah, but we're just crazy people. So now that we're talking about it, to use the hobo code properly, what happened to JFK in terms of the alternate theories throwing off the bot? Was it Cuba in the Bay of Pigs? Was it the Russians working with Oswald? Was it the Fed because he was going to audit the Fed? Was it the military-industrial complex because Kennedy, our hero, was going to get us, the U.S. out of Vietnam? Which one? Who really done it? Dealey Plaza, 1963. It's Metroid. It's Metroid. What happened? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just have to go watch the ridiculous Zapruder interview 2 hours later to confirm that. That's actually another one, not specifically the Zapruder interview, but what happened is another one we should put in our long list of how reality gives itself away, the video from, say, 2 or 3 weeks back or so. We have about 20 things now. All of the those interviewed after events, the catastrophe thespians, it's almost like a rule here that none of them can do a convincing job. And I don't buy the old excuses like, oh, they know, Matt, they don't have to put on a good show, and all the same scripts that the truthers run. No, it's like there's certain rules here that are laid down. They all do it in the same way, and we've seen it too many times at least from my perspective, for it not to be a reality giveaway. They all have that little chuckle or little smile when they're presenting what's supposed to be the most important part or the most tragic part. And yeah, anybody screaming at me, Duper's delight, first grade truthers, get back under the bubbles. Yeah, this is the entire truth I came out of in 2008. Sure, but it's not just, that's parroting. Duper's delight, that's parroting. We have to keep backing up and seeing that the presentation, if you want to call it Duper's delight, call it whatever you want, the presentation is so similar that it's a reality giveaway of some kind. Now, in the case of Bento Box, whatever that guy was, whatever his name was, who's running for president, he just literally basically started laughing when he was from that place then in Ohio. Just started cackling, chuckling out. It's not usually, of course, it's not going to be exactly the same robotic script, but that element is still the same. How during the most important part, the smile came, in his case, the cackling Hillary Clinton style laughing. It almost is like they're not real, these people, or it brings back to the forefront the concept of the NPC. I know we talk about that a lot, but what evidence is there? Well, this is as strong as evidence that exists that there is such a thing as the NPC, where if there is a soul, it's animated locally or sparked locally, no connection out of here that you and I likely have. So we've seen so many of these, quote, performances that they all do it in almost exactly the same way. And if you back up far enough and you have the big enough sample size, it's a reality giveaway. They couldn't all be doing it with the same sort of tendencies in exactly the kind of like the same spots. And, each one is a little different, of course. If you only have a sample size of 5 or 10, it's going to look different. But if you have a sample size close to 1,000 interviews at this point, or somebody that does research like Chuck that has 3,000, or he catalogs all the, quote, questionable events, then you see these tendencies and you see these repeating themes. And repeating themes don't happen in a real world, folks. And the point of all that was just talked about was Zapruder. We're back to Zapruder. He did the same thing. He was like the first one. He was like a trendsetter. He was like, he did the same sort of thing right at the description of supposedly the most horrific moments. Little bit of a smile, and it just happens too damn often. To the first grade truthers that want to parrot, we'll pause. You stand up above the bubbles and parrot. Go ahead. Duper's delight. And Matt, they know they don't have to put on a good show. They don't put any effort into these events. They know everybody's going to believe the news. They don't need to put in the effort and the professionalism that they did. No, that's parroting. There are certain ways that this reality reveals itself, And this is one of the ways. Very similar, and it's very different, but very similar, where if you look into the construction or ponder the construction of the megalithic sites or the pyramid at Giza or the Pyramid of the Sun and Moon and all these structures, not the cathedrals, but I guess there is repeating themes with the cathedrals, Easter Island or whatever it may be that you're going to call a megalithic site where the little primitives running around in their loincloths shouldn't have been able to build the damn thing. You see repeating themes in a fake reality. Where did they source the material? Did they ever source it on site? Never. They always had to get the material. I don't know. I don't want to say always, but this theme comes through so much, guys. It gives reality away. They had to go 50 miles away to get this granite and 20 miles away to get this limestone. It always had to be sourced from miles, and all the primitives were able to do that. And then, okay, but then you back up and you back up and it gets smaller and smaller. And you look at it for years and years and you're like, these are repeating themes that, giving away a fake reality. That's the way I see it at this point. And people scream back at me, fake reality. What does that mean? Don't take it to 10 out of 10. There's a lot of ways you can cross the threshold of saying fake reality. It doesn't have to be a complete Mandela effect overwrite, the magenta overwrite we saw in the cartoon Inside Job. If there is a whole class of individual here that's not spiritually the same as you, the NPC, if the NPC exists, that is somehow tied locally, that's a fake reality. That means it's just what you know about the world completely breaks down. Just the Minion class by itself and how different they are from you and me proves a fake reality. All right, let's go back to this same editorial cartoon with the Pilgrims, the American Indian, the guy carrying the television, the number 9, the slashes, etc. This is a very important point, perhaps the most important point we can take away from this cartoon that we haven't talked about yet regarding this cartoon. We've talked about many times in the past. So here we go again, but we have to do this, at least for myself. I have to keep doing this. Would you say, is there anybody here at this channel that would say, well, first off, let's back up. Most people do see a 9 paired with the other number presentation of some kind here. A purposeful 9. Most people see that presentation. There's very few people here, if I could speak for you, that would say, oh, come on, you guys always are trying to put it together. You're doing the apophinia. It doesn't exist. The slashes don't represent the 11. Most of us here will see some sort of that presentation. Okay. Now, how many of us think it was planted by, we're not going to do this big thing, but I have to very, very briefly, versus it just kind of came out of reality itself? Very few people here would think it's planted. Most of our community outside of this channel or channels like it, if they see the number presentation, would say it's planted. Okay, now that's kind of where my beef is. And the point is, I'll just remind you of this and we'll move on. As these examples keep coming in, thousands and thousands of examples, year after year goes by, it's stacking up completely on one side. It's because it gets harder and harder. As the examples come in, the chances it's planted or called in by a secret group gets lower and lower, of course. People only have 2 legs. There's only so much that can be pulled off, where there is no limit on if you just say the reality is seeing to it. Well, Matt, what does that mean? We're not going to even talk about that here. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of different possibilities inside that bucket, retrocausalities. We're not going to talk about it. If you have to pick which side of the podium you're going to defend, the reality saw to it, it's so much more likely at this point, and it becomes more and more likely as more samples come in. As more samples come in, thousands and thousands, then the chance that it was all planted and called in becomes less likely. And at this point, somebody that does this, looks at dark reality 7 days a week for over a decade, it's become impossible. Maybe 3-4 years ago, I said it's impossible for groups to be pulling this off. That's why you saw a very distinct change in me, that to look for answers based on reality itself. Now, inside that, there's a whole lot of things we could talk about. But I just want to remind you, as these examples come in, it favors only one side, never the other side. I assure you, the quote, not milk or the screen, Christian Satan, dark reality, it would want more than anything for somebody who's beginning to see, someone in our community, they would want nothing more, or that dark thing would want nothing more than to have that person explain it away by the planting of evidence by the Trilateral Commission or Freemasons or secret societies. They would want the dark reality would want those same old pedestrian explanations, because they would not want somebody to dive into how reality, or get close to understanding how reality truly works. Okay, that's why truth is given away in all different levels of graduated Animal Farm. It says, hey, this person will tell you that this society did this, and you look into it, oh, they did that. But that's, as long as it's just on the ground explanations, the Not Nilk loves that, because you never will get close to where you need to be. One of the major hijackings of the truth community is like a backroom conversation that probably took place like this, if they even take place, however reality works. But if it's just people talking or minions talking, it would be like, we know that this group over here is going to be able to see. We have already, maybe this was 20 years ago or 40 years ago, they're already showing signs that this group over here is growing, and they're going to be able to see through all of this. So what do we do? And one of the first grade tactics would be, well, tell them they're right in what they see. Just keep them away from the real truth by explaining it away by dark groups or whatever it may be, from the Kennedy assassination all through. The Not Nilk is expert at giving breadcrumbs or throwing breadcrumbs down where it acknowledges that maybe the person looking into truth is seeing it the right way, but their last second swerve the car off the side of the road is, well, okay, but here's where you should spend your time looking for the culprit. That's where it's always, and it's been very successful at that. It will almost give away the truth, knowing it can hide the ultimate truth by getting groups to focus on the wrong culprit. If anybody's not sure that, the 9 paired with the other number can kind of come through reality or bleed through reality in different ways, with Jeff's research, he has been over, I don't know how many hundreds of old videos of people going to visit in the 90s or up to 2000 or so, the WTC, and posting their home videos to YouTube. And he almost always finds something, like I've said. Now he's finding the magenta bleeding through. Like, okay, that political cartoon, if we don't think it was called in and planted, is it channeled, or how does that happen? It's kind of like a similar thing is happening with the magenta. He's found a lot of examples, even related to his 9 paired with the other number research, where it's just odd how the magenta bleeds through. One, he showed me a light post, or I guess it's a marker so a helicopter or plane doesn't run into the towers at night. And the bottom was completely red, and the top was magenta, just like this commercial he found. I'm not sure, if he found this commercial probably while doing his 2001 That Event research, because that's the majority of his research. And it was the same way. It was the red on the bottom and the magenta on the top, like the magenta is bleeding through. Okay, I'm not being clear. So example number 1, if you have a blinking light on the top of a skyscraper so planes don't hit, well, you have 2 red lights. You're going to have a magenta on top and red on the bottom. So Jeff and I go back and forth, and I'm saying, I kind of know where he is, but I'll just ask him, say, do you believe the light on the top was magenta if you were, say, looking at it and you were there 30 years ago? He's like, no, I don't believe it would be magenta. It would both be red. Well, of course it would be. They don't put magenta lights in those things that ward off planes and helicopters from tall buildings, but the top is clearly magenta. So it's like right now, we're not going to go too far. It's like it's bleeding through reality, but through the video or through the digital zeros and ones. We're not saying it's a retrocausality yet. If we were to go back in time and look at that blinking light, would we see magenta? Probably not. And the same with this advertisement, 11.9% annual financing. Who would put a number up showing financing in 1990, whatever, where you're going to make the top of the 1, the top of the 1, the top of the 9, and the top of the percentage magenta? You can almost see that the magenta is bleeding through, or in some way, is I don't know, I don't want to call it overwriting reality, but you can still kind of see the red in the top of the 1 and the 1 and the 9. Why the magenta is coming through the digital, coming through YouTube videos, I don't know, but this isn't the first time we've seen this, or I wouldn't be presenting it to you. I mean, Jeff would say this is happening a lot, and it's something to to keep in mind related to what we just talked about, how the numbers can come through old political cartoons, and does time even work the way we think it does in one direction? It likely works, the past and the future potentially could be affected equally, retrocausalities, all that stuff. So we'll continue to talk about it. I just wanted to show you this one. All right, guys, let's just end with this comment. I protected the person's name just to try to take the high road. This is the type of bullshit that I have to put up with. Usually I just delete these people from the channel. I don't put up with this bullshit anymore, but I had to. This one is just takes the cake. So yesterday's video, of course, found my old school project, but this person thinks that's fake. Let me read it to you. Sorry, but that was absolute bollocks. I have to stop earlier. I had to stop the video early. Your book looked fake. No way you had those them headlines FFS. Thanks, Matt. I just woke up again. Oh my God. And then I write back, incredible. I'm saving your comment for a future video. This one. Yep, that's right. You caught me. I'm exposed. I spent weeks gathering up articles from 1983 and then spent hours, quote, faking an old school project. And I would like to, I'm not going to converse with this person, but I would love to get the answer. It says here, let me ask you, for what purpose did I do that yesterday? What was my aim in this evil deception? What was accomplished? Get lost. Okay, let's say I faked. It wasn't really a school project. It was all faked. What did I get out of that? Like, what's the point? Can you see? That's what drives me nuts. There was a comment earlier on yesterday's video. I deleted this person from the channel. Just nothing other than, Matt, you're a shill. Can there at least be a second or third or fourth sentence explaining your gripe? Like, what's the problem with what I'm saying? Where am I going wrong? If you've discovered the deception, what is it? It's always just this generic, you're a shill. Matt, again, people yell at me, don't get sucked in, Matt. That's what they want. It's funny. It's really pathetic because there are just the attackers, and those people, I'm not going to call attention to their comments. They're simply trolls out to attack, out to bring the channel down. I don't know if they're paid to do it or whatever it is. With their lowly little demonic creatures. This is different. This isn't a regular troll. This is somebody that has been so, I guess, manipulated and have seen so many horrible troll videos and so many videos where the truth community is just paranoid about everything that this person's not a troll. They literally believe that my school project is something I faked. And I'm fascinated by that. But I would ask, to what aim? That's what I've never gotten in all of these years. So this type of comment, but then I would be thrilled if there was one more sentence saying, and Matt, I see that the reason you faked it and what you were talking about was to accomplish this and to manipulate people in this manner. There's never that final part. Well, wait, if you think I faked it, why did I do it? I'm dying to know. If I'm some sort of shill, why? Anyway, guys, and I will, if these comments come, and you guys, if you like this sort of thing, ripping comments, I'd love to do it. I really do. There's a side of me that, Matt, turn the other cheek. Oh, I have. For 14 years. How many comments have I ever shown? I've turned the other cheek, but then I can get, a little nasty myself, and then it becomes like me and Missy 10 years or 12 years ago watching the Academy Awards, and she's like, I'm just ripping every presenter, and just after 3 or 4 beers, just ripping every part of it. I don't like that side of you. I didn't know you were like that. You have a mean streak. Yeah, I don't want that side to come forth. Maybe it has no place here, but I don't know. Some of you might like me, the ripping comments. I said a few years ago, and I don't think it's just because of the size of the channel. I said there's a nastiness. I remember using the word vitriol, and those that would disagree, there's always a jab. It's never just, I don't know. I mean, there's still a lot of great comments that are people just trying to move our community forward as a real community, saying, here's how I think I can help the conversation. So many little jabs and snarkiness and vitriol. I still think that applies. And it's not all like organized trolls. I think one of the main reasons, guys, I really have been thinking about this and see if this resonates with you or if you want to put this in the comments, that we we have a lot more work to do in terms of understanding reality in ourselves. Yes. But we're getting pretty close. I mean, we've made incredible gains, not because, again, we're such geniuses, because they're taking such big bites that it's almost like the reality yin and yang. It has to give us back knowledge on the other side. But I'm not sure everybody's, even in the truth community, is ready to wake up. It's almost like this. They're taking such big bites that how the reality works is being completely handed to us. Handed to us. And if people still need to do the work, you might think that's more lifetimes or a reincarnation or multiple aspects of higher self. I think there's people in the truth community that literally, it's almost like their higher self says, reject this or see this person as a shill, or, oh, we're not ready. We haven't done all the work. The higher self says, reject this person or be skeptical of this person or drive them away. And I'm not patting myself on the back saying, oh, we have all the answers, but collectively, I think we're getting pretty close, farther than we've ever thought we could get. And again, because of them, because the yin and yang is the most famous symbol, most important symbol of all time. As they move, it must give back on the other end. And, that is, I've had people that have been with me for years that just, they say one thing and they get highly angry or upset. And it's just, it's a shame. It really does. That's the one thing that hurts me. People certain people have been with me for years and, they send me an email or something and I'm like, so, we've been together for 4 years and you don't like what I'm doing in this one area and you're just going to like call me names, and it gets kind of nasty too. I really believe, guys, they're not ready to wake up. Even though they've been truthers, they're not ready. And, maybe we are getting close, and a part of them has to drive them away from this group because they're just getting too close and they're not ready. Okay, maybe that sounds arrogant to you, or I don't know any other way to put it. Tony's talked about this. If you are a believer in higher self, you as an aspect of that, you're here to do the work, not to do a cheat code and get out. And herself has put you in here, or potentially, if you believe in Tony's interpretation of higher self, different or simultaneous aspects of itself in different earths or different reality systems to do the work. The work must be done properly. No cheat code, no chat GPT to do your homework assignment. If it will stop you if you are not ready. I think that might be what's happening. Thanks for listening.